Hello and welcome back to another episode of Handloader TV. I'm your host, Jeremiah. And in this episode, we're taking a look at the Howa 1500 here, a mini-action, ultra-lightweight rifle, and the cartridge it's chambered in, the 6.5 Grendel. It's a very interesting little cartridge, and as usual, we'll start out with a bit of history on it. It was introduced in 2003 by Alexander Arms, and it was showcased, I believe, at the Blackwater Training Facility is where it was first seen. And it's an interesting cartridge based on the 220 Russian cartridge. And it received some success, especially as a long-range to medium-range cartridge. And around 2010-2011 time period, it was SAMI approved, and the maximum pressure was set at 52,000 psi. Now the reason that's a little bit lower than, say, like your 223 Remington is because of the bolt that's required. The 6.5 Grendel is fully capable of being run in an AR-15 or that type of rifle. And as a result of the larger case head on it, it required a larger bolt. And so because of that larger bolt, less material there, they had to reduce the pressure down a little bit from the typical 52,000 psi mark for 223 Remington 5.56 NATO. And so you get a little bit less pressure, but you get a lot longer, heavier, higher BC bullet, and something that is still capable of running in the AR-15 platform. Its overall loaded length is held to 2.260 inches per SAMI spec. Some of the loads that we'll be featuring will be a little bit longer just because we can get away with it in this bolt gun. Also, generally speaking, you can get away with a little bit more pressures in a bolt-action rifle with the Grendel as compared to an AR. 6mm ARC is a good example of that. They have two different pressure levels that Hornady talks about in their reloading manual for that cartridge. The same kind of applies to the Grendel, but you don't see a whole lot of published data on that or people talking about that. And for our testing purposes, everything is going to be held to that 52,000 psi mark. Now, the Grendel being based on the 220 Russian case here, it has a great pedigree as far as accuracy goes. It's well known as being the parent case for many bench rest cartridges and things of that nature, so I'm really excited to see how this cartridge performs. It's capable of staying supersonic past 1,000 yards. It's very low recoil as well, and in addition to that, the 6.5 Grendel makes an excellent varmint or predator cartridge, and it's a wonderful youth cartridge, especially back east where your ranges are going to be, generally speaking, 250 yards and in. It excels at that, which kind of brings us over to this rifle that we're going to be talking about now. Let's go ahead and take a deep dive onto this Howa Carbon Elevate rifle. So it's been a pretty long time since I've been really excited about a bolt-action rifle that's been released on the market. However, I will say this is one particular rifle that I was very, very excited when they announced it. I remember reading about it at SHOT Show, handling it in person, and full disclosure, this rifle was sent to us from Legacy Sports International. They import the Howa line of rifles, and the optic was also sent to us from Miopta for testing purposes. However, we won't let that influence our review. What you're going to see here is the results, and of course, as always, you be the judge. But the reason why I was excited to see this rifle released to the public here is because it is ultra light. Its bare weight comes in at 4 pounds 10 ounces. So not even 5 pounds and you have a rifle here. And Howa is one of the few manufacturers that is still making what I would consider a mini action or a smaller than short action. And it's a phenomenal action. I've got plenty of other mini actions. We did a video on 300 Blackout, and there was a mini action featured in that I built up as a semi-custom rifle. Just a great platform overall. And this rifle is, it's very exciting to me because I greatly appreciate lightweight rifles, especially for use on horseback, backcountry hunting, and things of that nature. But let's go ahead and dive into the details. We'll start out at the back here. We have a rather thin recoil pad. It is a limb saver recoil pad. And then we have a carbon fiber stock with some texturing on it. It is very light. Feels pretty nice. I like the grip angle on it there. And then it's got a cryptic altitude camo pattern on it, which makes it look pretty sharp there. You can take it or leave it depending on whatever your favorite camo pattern is. Everything's paintable, but I think it looks sharp personally speaking. We have the proprietary Howa box magazines here, which in the past I have had some issues with these magazines. However, my biggest gripe with the Howa mini actions that took these magazines was the magazine release, which they have refined. I'm happy to see here on this newer modeled Howa. It's not as big, it's less likely to accidentally bump that and release your magazine. Fits securely up there in the magazine well. The bottom metal here is actually not metal, it is plastic, but that saves you weight, so that makes a lot of sense on an ultralight rifle. The signature mini action here, which I'm a huge fan of, absolutely love these guys. We have a 3-position safety here, and of course we are clear. Checked multiple times, but 3-position safety, so the first position is completely safe, can't work the bolt, can't pull the trigger. Second position means you can open the bolt, unload the rifle, do what you need to do, but you still can't pull the trigger. Then you have forward, which is fire. Makes a lot of sense, very intuitive design. Bolt release is on the left-hand side here, should you want to remove the bolt. And the bolt can also easily be disassembled without tools, and we'll talk about that more later on. But very nice bolt there. M16 style extractor on the bolt as well, which personally I'm a huge fan of. Housed in here we have a hacked 2-stage adjustable trigger, and from the factory on an average of 5 pulls on our Wheeler Engineering trigger pull gauge, the digital model here, average of 5 pulls broke at 2 pounds 6 ounces. So a very nice trigger there. That's what it was set to at the factory, and I saw no desire to fiddle with that or change that. Happy with how that broke. But you can, generally speaking, get these down to about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, depending on the particular trigger. So they are adjustable, which is very nice. Then moving right along here to the barrel, we have a 20-inch carbon fiber wrapped barrel. And Howa is making these barrels, and that's why they're able to produce these rifles at such a reasonable price point for what you're getting. It is threaded on the end here, 5/8 by 24 thread, and it's a 1-in-8 twist barrel. The overall length of the rifle without the suppressor is 38.5 inches, and what we have on the end here is a Nosler SR30 ALTI suppressor. It's a very lightweight suppressor, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to test the suppressor, see how this rifle groups. So I did some initial accuracy work before this video off camera with the suppressor on and off. Didn't seem to affect anything as far as accuracy or dispersion goes. I was very pleased with that. We had a little bit of a point of impact shift because of the weight on the end of the barrel, but nothing too bad. Then for the optic, we got from Miopta. This is a 4.5 to 27 by 50 RD front focal plane Optica 6. It's a great optic. I've been a big fan of it. Housed inside that optic is their 223 RD reticle, and it is also illuminated. So I thought this would be a great scope because it will add a little bit of weight. It's probably not something you'd typically put on a mountain gun or a backcountry hunting gun, but the added weight on the rifle will help hopefully shoot better groups and just stabilize it when I'm shooting in the bags there. It's held in place by loopholed PRW2 rings. I'm a big fan of those, and then we just got some loopholed bases there that the rings are mounted to. Overall, a really nice setup. I'm really excited to see how it performs for us. Howa does have a sub-MOA accuracy guarantee, and depending on the manufacturer and how reputable that is, it can either mean a whole lot or it can amount to a hill of beans. It just depends. But we're going to put that to the test, see just how accurate this particular rifle is and what it's capable of. Now let's go ahead and jump on over to some things we should talk about when it comes to hand loading for the 6.5 Grendel. Hand loading for the 6.5 Grendel is a relatively simple and straightforward process, so rather than make you watch me load 200 rounds for this entire load development and just crank out ammunition, we're just going to briefly go over some of the components that we've selected and talk about what we did to develop these hand loads so that way it's easily duplicated by the viewer here. So we started out with a Redding T7 turret press with a Creedmoor Sports turret press head installed on there. We've got RCBS dies here. I'm also tinkering with some of their Matchmaster dies in 260 Remington, in particular the seating die, because I'm a big fan of those Matchmaster window seating dies. I'm going to try and modify one of those to work in the 6.5 Grendel. At the end of the video, I'll address if it worked or not. But overall, that's what we use to develop these loads, is a standard Redding or RCBS full-length sizing die, and then an RCBS bullet seating die or a Matchmaster bullet seating die, depending on how this goes. For our cases, we've selected Starline cases. They make cases that are of outstanding quality. Big fan of Starline cases. We'll be using that throughout testing. We have a wide variety of powders, more than what's just shown here on the bench, and bullets as well that we're going to put to the test. And if you don't hand load, fear not, we will be testing some Nosler factory ammunition as well, some 123 grain boat tail hollow point projectiles and that ammunition. We'll see how it performs in this particular rifle. So in order to assemble the loads, we just simply full-length size the brand new unfired Starline cases, and then from there everything was primed with a Frankfurt Arsenal hand primer. Most of my ammunition for this test is already preloaded and ready to go. I just have a few more to do. So once the cases were primed and a chamfer and deburr was applied prior to that, then everything went on over to the RCBS Matchmaster scale that I have. All charges were weighed on that and dispensed on that and were accurate to 0.04 of a grain. Then from there, bullets were seated using either a modified RCBS Matchmaster die or just a standard RCBS seating die for 6.5 Grendel, like this one right here. And that's pretty much it. We've got a bunch of different charge weights loaded up, and we'll go ahead and hit the range here in a little bit. But what we're going to show you is just the best loads. Rather than waste your time and draw this video out for hours and hours, we're just going to take the best loads, showcase those for you. If you want to see all of the loads we shot, how they perform, the velocities, extreme spreads, group sizes, all that stuff, it's available for free on loaddata.com, our website. If you want to see the powder charges, though, you will have to subscribe to that. It's something that we offer only to subscribers on that website, and it's a great way to support the channel and what we're doing here as well. So I would encourage you guys to check that out, but you'll be able to see all the results for yourself on loaddata.com. Just type in Handloader TV in the search bar and look for the 6.5 Grendel. So without further delay, what do you say we go ahead and hit the range, and we'll see what this rifle is capable of. So we're out here on the range now. We have a target downrange at 100 yards and an Ailer Model 35P chronograph set up to record all of our velocities, and that is 10 feet from the muzzle of the rifle. And according to my Kestrel 5700 here, the temperature is right about 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind speed is coming sporadically from about the 6 to 7 o'clock position, 0 to 4 miles per hour currently. Humidity 41%, pressure when adjusted for altitude is 30.25 in Hg, and the altitude is 5,000 feet. I'm really excited to see how this Grendel does. We're going to start out with factory ammunition first, and then we're going to jump over to hand loads. And I've just got one factory load to put to the test here due to our limited time constraints and component availability. So for factory ammo, what we have here is Nosler match grade ammunition for the 6.5 Grendel. It's using a 123 grain hollow point boat tail bullet, their custom competition bullet, and the advertised velocity is 2,400 feet per second. Got a magazine loaded here. All right. Put our ears on. Here we go. There's our first 5 shots of the day with this rifle, and that is truly a cold bore shot as well on that first round. So first and second round fell right in line. Really good quality ammunition and looks like a decent group. So now we're moving up a little bit here in weight class. Swapped over to Hodgdon H335 powder, a 30.5 grain charge with a 95 grain Hornady VMAX bullet, Starline cases, Federal 205M primers, and our overall loaded length is 2.250 inches. And as usual, shoot them and group them. Well, from what I can see, that looks like a pretty dang good load as well. So rolling right along with our load development, we swapped over to Shooter's World Precision Powder, a 28 grain charge with a 120 grain Hornady ELDM bullet, Starline cases, Federal 205M primers, and our overall loaded length is 2.265 inches. A little bit longer than max, but it feeds and functions just fine in this rifle. We're all set here. Let's shoot a group. There's our 5 rounds. So now moving on to the heavier weight spectrum for the 6.5 Grendel, we have Shooter's World Tactical Rifle Powder, a 26.0 grain charge with a 130 grain Sierra tipped Match King bullet, Federal 205M primers, Starline cases, and our overall loaded length is 2.280 inches. Settle in here. Put a group on a paper. So we wanted to pause real quick in the middle of shooting, which is rather unusual. We apologize for the interruption, but we wanted to explain to you what we just saw, what you just witnessed in the video. You could see that the bolt was extremely sticky there, and normally that would be an indication of an overpressure load. However, based on previous pressure tested data that we have on the 6.5 Grendel, and based on our current velocity numbers, because generally speaking, velocity equals pressure, we decided that we would go ahead and take a different approach and examine the rifle itself. We assumed that there was an issue with the rifle itself, and what we found out was, with the addition of the suppressor on here, there was somehow a little piece of carbon or some fouling or something that built up inside the bolt. Thankfully, Howa has a toolless bolt disassembly, so you simply push pretty significantly there, and you can unscrew your bolt. They have a pretty stiff firing pin. Then I just sprayed this with some gun cleaner, some Hoppe's number 9, I think is what I sprayed in there. Soaked it up, wiped it out, ran some patches through there, cleaned it out really good, wiped this down, re-oiled it and lubricated it, and then we reinstalled it in the rifle, which is a relatively simple and straightforward process. Once that was done, then we went ahead and went back to shooting. But this just goes to show you the importance of having a chronograph so you're able to get a rough idea of your velocity, and generally speaking, velocity equals pressure. And it also goes to show you the importance of maintenance on your rifle. At the time this happened, the rifle had approximately 95 rounds through it. It was about due for a cleaning anyway. And we probably went a little bit long there for testing purposes on the cleaning. But it was a very easy, simple fix that was done in the field, and we were able to continue on shooting. That was also one of the best groups we got, in spite of me having to break my position in order to work the bolt. And if it was a pressure issue, I certainly would have stopped shooting right then and there, but I knew it was something to do with the bolt. I even mentioned that the chamber maybe is a little dirty as well in the video. So that's the whole reason behind that. Now let's go ahead and continue on with the shooting of this rifle. I think that chamber's getting dirty or something. It shouldn't be hot. And there you have it, 5 shots on the target. So it's our second day on the range now, and the setup is identical. Target still at 100 yards. Ailer Model 35P chronograph set up 10 feet from the muzzle to record all of our velocities. And according to the Kestrel 5700, the weather conditions are as follows. Temperature 31 degrees Fahrenheit with a 20 degree wind chill. Humidity 38.9%, pressure is 30.08 in Hg, and wind is 10 to 15 miles per hour from the 10 o'clock position. So without further delay, let's get to shooting. This load is using IMR 8208 XBR powder, a 27.0 grain charge with a 100 grain Burger boat tail target bullet, Federal 205M primers, Starline cases, and our overall loaded length is 2.280 inches. A little bit above maximum magazine length, but feeds and functions just fine out of this particular rifle. But you might have to shorten that if you're using an AR or something like that. That looks like a really nice little clover leaf group there. Real happy with that. So as you can see, we're back at the bench now. We put a ton of ammunition through this particular rifle. A bunch of factory loads, a bunch of hand loads. I think I assembled 40 different loads to test through this rifle, in addition to a couple of hundred extra rounds of the best load that I could find. And we just shot this rifle extensively. And let me preface this by saying there's a lot of misconceptions out there with lightweight rifles, saying that an ultralight rifle is not as accurate as a heavy bench gun or something like that. This rifle performed extremely well. For a factory rifle that weighs less than 5 pounds, it was able to come up with some impressive dispersion results and impressive accuracy downrange. So let's go ahead and dive into these impressive targets, starting out with the factory ammunition from Nosler. This is Nosler match grade factory ammunition using a 123 grain hollow point boat tail, or their custom competition bullet. It assembled a group size of 0.77 inches, a standard deviation of 18, extreme spread of 48, and an average velocity of 2,282 feet per second out of this 20-inch barreled rifle. The advertised velocity is 2,400 feet per second, but I'm sure that's with a 24-inch or longer barrel. So not giving up too much velocity with a shorter barrel, and to me that's a win, especially with the weight savings you get with a 20-inch barrel versus a 24 or 26-inch barrel. It just makes a lot of sense to have a shorter barrel with the Grendel cartridge here, personally speaking. Good results there. Then we went ahead and jumped over to our hand loads, and we started out using Hodgdon H335 powder, personal favorite of mine in this cartridge, a 30.5 grain charge with a 95 grain Hornady VMAX bullet, a bullet that I use quite a bit in my 6.5 Creedmoor for varmint work, and it performs very well. It also performs equally well in this 6.5 Grendel cartridge. We got a standard deviation of 10, extreme spread of 27, and our 5-shot group measured out to 0.38 inches. Very nice, clean, small group there. Very happy with those results. Then from there, we went ahead and jumped on over to Shooter's World Precision Rifle Powder, personal favorite of mine, very similar in burn rate to Varget, and very clean burning as well. A 28 grain charge granted us 2,318 feet per second out of the 20-inch barrel. Standard deviation of 7, extreme spread of 20, and our group size was 0.39 inches. So very impressive results there with the Shooter's World powder. And also it was very consistently low standard deviation and extreme spread numbers in this rifle when we conducted our ladder type testing of our loads. Worked very well. From there, we went ahead and jumped on over to another Shooter's World powder. This is Shooter's World Tactical Rifle Powder, a 26 grain charge, got us 2,252 feet per second, extreme spread of 23, and a standard deviation of 8, and 130 grain Sierra tipped Match King grouped into 0.56 inches, so just a little bit over half a minute of angle. Very impressive results in this rifle. Then we went ahead and jumped on over to IMR 8208 XBR using a 27 grain charge of that powder with a 100 grain Berger boat tail target bullet. We got an average velocity of 2,339 feet per second, extreme spread of 23, standard deviation of 9, and that assembled the best group that we got throughout all of our testing at 0.32 inches. Very, very good results with this. And to be honest with you, with your average everyday factory rifle combination and optic combination, it can be very challenging for me personally to shoot down into the 0.2s and 0.1s. I can get 0.3s pretty consistently, but this is starting to push my limits as a shooter a little bit. And it makes me yearn for a fine target scope with maybe 40 power magnification. But all these loads that you saw here were shot with this Optica 6 on there and the 223 RD reticle. So overall, the performance of this package is absolutely outstanding. I am very impressed with the accuracy of the rifle. And when we do these tests, we put the targets in the same place on the cardboard backer. And at the end of the day, when we pull our targets off, the cardboard backer will have a, generally speaking, 100 to 200 round group on it, depending on how many rounds were tested that day. This rifle, across over 40 different loads, 200 rounds of ammunition, it assembled maybe a 2-inch group on the cardboard backer across all those loads. I found that to be extremely impressive with a factory rifle. So there is no question that these Howa rifles, light as they are, they shoot very, very well. So now let's go ahead and jump on over to a couple of other things that I want to address, and we'll close out this video. So whenever we present these videos to you, we try to do them in the most matter-of-fact way possible and let the results speak for themselves. And personally speaking, I do think that the results with this rifle do speak for themselves. It assembled some very impressive groups. The reliability was phenomenal. The overall design of the rifle is tried and true and proven, both in the field for hunting and on the ranges as well. Generally speaking, Howas are extremely reliable. I hear of very few problems with them. And this particular rifle, we had really no issues. There was one very minor thing, and in a different rifle, it may have turned into a major thing. But in shooting this, I noticed that I was getting sticky bolt lifts, and at first I thought it was maybe a pressure sign, but upon inspecting my loads and the velocity of those loads and the powder charge weights and things of that nature, I realized that there's no way it could have been the hand loads. And what it was is, I think shooting suppressed, some carbon or some gunk somehow traveled back into the bolt and was just slightly binding with the cocking piece here. And Howa has a toolless bolt design, so you can disassemble this bolt without any tools. I do recommend a pen for that though, a quick tip. You can put the pen right there to kind of alleviate some of the spring tension, and then this will simply thread right off. But very easy to do, very simple. Plenty of other videos on YouTube about that. And I cleaned that out, and then the bolt was once again back to normal, just like when I pulled it out of the box the first time. So overall, very impressed with the performance of the rifle. And just to share my personal thoughts with this now on this rifle, I think it makes an ideal ranch gun, truck gun. I think it would be a wonderful varmint and predator gun, an excellent youth cartridge, the 6.5 Grendel, and it would make a great gun for whitetail hunters back east, great varmint platform. I'm very impressed, and I'm very happy with the overall performance, feel, fit, and finish of the rifle. But as always, you be the judge. You let us know what you think. That's what the comment section is for, and we appreciate those and enjoy reading those. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. We greatly appreciate it. We hope that if you liked what you saw, you'd give us a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you're notified when we post our next video. We've got tons of exciting projects coming up, and if Howa or Legacy Sports watches this video, I'd love to see one of these carbon elevates chambered in 22 arc in their mini action. I think that would be super cool. If you'd like to see that as well, let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.